everybody. I'm going to let you know 5 reasons that you may not want to move to Louisville. Reason number 1 would be horses. If you don't like horses, you might not want to move to Kentucky. Horse racing is a big deal here. We have the Kentucky Derby, obviously, with Churchill Downs. And of course, you have your spring meet, your summer meet, your fall meet, and a lot of horse talk, horse themes. Around town, we have horses that are statues type thing. They call them Gallapalooza horses. Some people have them in front of their businesses. Some people have them in front of their homes. They're kind of a big deal. Bring their color different themes. For example, it might be an autism type theme on the horse. Things like that, just to draw the Derby into other parts of the community. We do celebrate the Derby for 2 weeks before it actually happens. And in those 2 weeks, there are parades, boat races, there's the Thunder over Louisville, which is a fireworks and air show that is about 2 weeks, the 2 Saturdays before Derby. That is an all-day event. It brings about 750,000 people into Louisville for that event. Downtown is really congested. We have things like pageants, of course, the big Derby parties. So there's a lot of activity around the 2 weeks before Derby. But horse racing is always prevalent. We have a lot of news about it. So if you're not a horse person, not into that, you might not want to come here. If you are, it's a really good time to have parties. There's lots of parties. Derby is definitely the big deal. When I moved here, I didn't know anything about how important it was. And so I was operating under normal circumstances. And then I just saw how everyone basically stopped working and started partying. They wouldn't come to work. They take days off. So I realized it was a big deal, which of course for me, I was working. So everyone was glad to let me work and they would have off. But it is definitely a culture shock when you first move here to adjust to that mentality of Derby. Nothing happens. You go into the Home Depot on Derby Day, there's no one in there. So the number 2 reason that you may not want to move here would be the humidity. The summertime is very humid. It took me the first 2 years to even come outside in the summertime. It was pretty humid. I'm from a northern state, so having all that humidity along with the heat was stifling for me. I was not enjoying it at all. I was trying to rollerblade. That didn't work out. It just was too much. So if you're not a fan of the heat and humidity, you probably won't really like the summers. Although most places are air conditioned, it does give a good backdrop for all the events that we have outside. We have lots of concerts. We have things like Forecastle. We have Bourbon and Beyond, which is 4 days of music. I think they have like 60 bands this year. So we have lots and lots of festivals outside because we do have better weather. You know, we have all 4 seasons, which they're very definite seasons, not extremely long of any one of those seasons. So if you're not a big fan of humidity and heat, you probably won't enjoy those first few years when you move here. If you are, especially as you get older and you like the heat, this might be a good place for you. The next reason that you may not want to move to Louisville, Kentucky would be basketball. NCAA college basketball is really big in Kentucky, not just Louisville, but in our area, because we have Indiana, which, you know, IU. I know they haven't been as prevalent the last few years, but there's a rich history there. You have UK up the road, 70 miles, and then you have University of Louisville. And not just in the men's program, also in the women's program. They're very strong programs in both of those. So basketball is a big deal here. Once basketball season starts, it's almost like they can't even wait for football season to end before they're talking basketball. Sometimes it's almost unfair because I come from a football background. But if you don't like basketball, you are going to not be happy for a few months of the year. And then there's the rivalry between U of L and UK. The third reason that you may not want to move to Louisville, Kentucky would be basketball. We are a huge basketball area. The state as a whole, not just Louisville, because we have UK up the road with basketball, and then we also have IU, which I understand that IU hasn't been as prevalent the last few years, but it still has a rich history. So during basketball season, men's and women's are both strong programs in this area and very, very well followed. As a matter of fact, the women's program, I believe, is the third most attended women's program in the country. So it's a very strong basketball following. You'll hear basketball, basketball, basketball. Brackets are a big deal come tournament time. The city just kind of gets all basketball. It's all you hear about. I even feel like the football season gets somewhat truncated because of basketball. They overlap towards the end of the season, and people kind of forget about the football, regardless of how good our program here is. Louisville has had some really good years because we had Lamar Jackson, and before that Teddy Bridgewater. So you had some strong football programs that still tended to get overshadowed by the football program. So if you don't like basketball, you'll probably want to find something else to do during that season. The fourth reason you may not want to live in Louisville would be we are a river city. We have the Ohio River that separates us and Indiana, southern Indiana. And so therefore you do have a little bit of extra traffic because of that. There are more bridges than there were when I moved here. When I moved here, there were only 2 bridges in this area. Well, I'll take that back. There were 3. There was also the small 2nd Street Bridge. But traffic, anyone that wanted to cross and go to work, some people, live on the opposite side of the river versus where they work. So therefore, it created a lot of congestion. In the last 10 years, we've gotten 2 more bridges, which have helped that traffic a lot, although we have tolls because of that. So you do have that issue. People going back and forth across the bridge for shopping used to be a better deal when you went across the bridge to Indiana because the sales tax was less. I think that's changed to match Kentucky's now. But we do have the river, which also gives us the opportunity to have a lot of river activities. So there's a lot of festivals and events and concerts. We have the riverfront, the waterfront park, which is a lot of fun, a lot of open green space that the city has invested, millions of dollars in the last, 20 years. It's a lot more going on the river than when I moved here 25 years ago. So if you're averse to a river and the traffic and things that go along with that, we do have flooding in the spring, especially. There'll be some times where I have friends who live on the river. We'll have to move them from the river area, take all their belongings, put it in our storage so that they can not get ruined, and then wait a few days and bring it back. So there is some disruption to traffic and sometimes home life, which is why you'll really want to work with a realtor who knows where to live, to buy a house that fits your lifestyle. I have had people that physically wanted to live on the river and moved specifically from their home, which was a very nice home in a more rural area of Kentucky, of Louisville, and then want to be slam bam on the river right up front and personal. So they made that big switch. So took the dog and everything, bought a boat. Really good people that just wanted to be on the river. So some people don't like the river, and I get that. So if you talk to me, I'll be able to help you with finding a home that would really best suit your lifestyle and what part of town you want to be in. So if you like what you're hearing from me, and I'm getting ready to give you number 1 reason, but if you like what you're hearing from me, go ahead and hit the subscribe button below and hit the little bell so that you get notified every time I post a video. And you can call me at 502-664-9971. Again, that's 502-664-9971. And now the number 1 reason you may not want to move to Louisville is Bourbon. Bourbon is a big damn deal in Louisville, and really Kentucky overall, of course. I mean, because down the road in Bardstown, is where they make a lot of it. I believe 90% of all the world's bourbon is made in Kentucky. So bourbon has really made a comeback, super big in the last 10 years. Everything is bourbon related. We have the Bourbon Trail. We have restaurants that specifically cater to bourbon themes. So they're more bourbon than they are food. There's some really neat new ones that focus on the bourbon. There's bus tours for bourbon. I'm not a bourbon drinker. You know, I'm from the north. I don't really get into bourbon, but it is a big deal here. And they have flights of bourbon. If you don't drink bourbon, people kind of look at you like something's wrong with you. So if you're not into the drinking scene, I'm sure that it won't bother you. My husband doesn't drink. He's lived here most of his life. He was born here, raised here. So it doesn't have to impede every part of your life. But it is a big deal here if you want to have, it's of course also with Derby. It's paired up with Derby, and a lot of things, you know, are coincide. Derby pervades a lot of things. It's the number one event in town for the whole year. I mean, people actually clean up the town for Derby. So anyway, that wraps up. If you have any questions, please give me a call, 502-664-9971. My name is Margaret Weathers, and I want to be the real estate agent that you look for when you're moving to Louisville. Thanks. Take care. Bye-bye.